Hey everyone, welcome back to Relocate with Beth. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you that follow me, you know that I just launched a new series called Explore with Beth. And today was supposed to be a video of a new location to explore with me. But given the recent events between the US and Panama, I think that this topic definitely takes precedence. So it's all about priorities, y'all. As a US immigrant living in Panama, married to a Panamanian that specializes in helping people relocate from predominantly North America, US and Canada, to Panama, I think this is definitely a topic that we need to address. So, have you wondered, I'm sure you have, why Trump keeps talking about the Panama Canal, especially in really important speeches? And, not sure if there's any speech more important than his inauguration speech. So everyone's asking, is this just political theater? Is there more to this? So I went, ever since the inauguration on Monday, I have been diving deep into this topic for my own knowledge, to learn more, but also because I do feel responsibility to my clients that are looking to relocate to this country to be knowledgeable on all things Panama. So a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about Trump's comments, how the media has reacted, Panama's response, and obviously the bigger picture involving China. It's a serious topic, but we'll add a little bit of humor. Okay, so how did this all begin? So Trump, in his inauguration speech, and I quote, said, "If the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand that the Panama Canal be returned to the United States of America." So obviously, first of all, let me foreshadow this with, I had a group of friends come to our ranch on Monday to, watch the celebration, the inauguration. Obviously, they were mostly Americans. The only Panamanian that was amongst us was my husband. So everything was hunky-dory. The speech was beautiful. The ceremony was beautiful until Trump said that. So you can imagine, obviously, the mood, the energy, everything. It was kind of like, what just happened? Obviously, the initial reaction, especially of my husband, who was here, he was actually an air traffic controller on duty the day of the US invasion. Yes, that's a whole nother, bucket of worms. But the US invasion was it was very scary to Panamanians. So I think there was a little bit of PTSD, like, what does this mean? Is the US gonna come back and invade Panama? How can they take back something that doesn't belong to them? Like, all kinds of questions arise, right? Amongst the Americans at the table, we're all kind of like, why would he bring this up at his inauguration speech? Like, it didn't make sense. But as someone who has closely followed Trump's political career, and as a businesswoman myself, regardless of how anyone feels about Trump, we know that he's a successful businessman. Like, he's proven that. That's a fact. That can't be denied. It doesn't matter where you stand, how you see him. We also know that he uses his business strategies always. So, it's the art of negotiation. And what we saw when he was president before is he would make some comment, the media would go into frenzy, and then we would soon find out that he's not an idiot and that was all part of a strategy. So knowing that, I immediately started to think to myself, there's something here. Like, also Trump is very patriotic. He loves his country. That cannot be denied either. And throughout his campaign, he's said over and over again that he wants to focus on the U.S., in the war, no more wars. You know, he's big on drilling and boosting the US economy. Like, his main focus is the United States. So I couldn't help but ask myself, if he's bringing up Panama when his main focus is the US, there has to be more to the story. And there is. So buckle your seatbelts, folks. So yeah, obviously the reaction in Panama, like I kind of touched on my husband's reaction, but that was kind of the overall. Immediately, every post trending on social media is, you know, Panamanians were outraged, concerns of the US invasion. And then our President Molino addressed the nation, responding publicly that every square kilometer of the canal belongs to Panama. Now, we're not going to dive deeper there, and I'm just going to touch on like key points, because this goes so deep and wide, and there's so much that could be dissected and spoken in more detail, but we're just going to focus on the facts. I don't understand why Molino said that, because in my findings, not every square kilometer, maybe it belongs to Panama, but it's not necessarily being operated by Panama. So does it actually? I don't know. I'll continue and I'll allow you to kind of form your own opinion. Going back to the inauguration speech, Trump also said, in addition to kind of what I just quoted, he said that President McKinley made our country very rich. Teddy Roosevelt used that wealth for many great things, including the Panama Canal. Foolishly, it was given to Panama, costing us money, 38,000 lives, and now the treaty has been violated. China controls the canal, and we're taking it back. Okay. We also know, anyone that's followed Trump's career, he doesn't like China, but I think most Western Hemisphere countries are not too thrilled with China in general. We know that they're communist. We know that they are strategic and that they aspire to world dominance. Like, we can't deny that. So some of this may feel like my own opinion, but also some of this is just facts that we have to accept. So like digging deeper into this, I'm like, okay, what is really going on? I found so many resources, blown away, actually. I wanted to get this video out, but I am not done with my investigations. But I found out the gist. So on January 15th, 2025, the Senate Foreign Committee met with Marco Rubio. For those of you who don't know, he's the newly elected Secretary of State. I'll drop this link to the YouTube video in the comments so that you can watch it for yourself. But the key points from their discussion is that the treaty that returned the canal to Panama includes a permanent neutrality clause between US and Panama. Like, they have to remain neutral. They discussed allegations that Panama has violated this clause by allowing Chinese companies to control key port facilities. That is true. They're not allegations. Through my research, there are Chinese companies controlling key port facilities. Security officials warn that these Chinese-controlled ports could act as choke points. They could potentially be weaponized in time of conflict. That's alarming, y'all. Sorry, I don't care who you are. Well, unless you're Chinese, that's alarming. And we know that China has a pattern. China isn't just trying to embed itself into Panama. They've embedded themselves in the US, along with many other Central and South American countries. So their strategy is they embed themselves into critical infrastructure, right? You don't have to be a genius to understand that's not only for, income generating reasons. There's a bigger picture there. And it's quite frightening. Any communist country that embeds themselves in infrastructure throughout like a massive territory, the whole entire Western Hemisphere, is cause for concern. So I was like, okay, so I watched the Senate committee. So that was kind of like the American perspective, the US perspective. My husband always tells me, I'm not American, we're all American because we live in the Americas, North America, Central America, and South America. So I'm trying to get better of not, obviously I was born in the US of A, so proud to be an American. That's our slogan. But I am, out of respect for other Americans, trying to get better at saying United States, not America. But that's besides the point. So we saw the US perspective, but I was like, okay, let me dig deeper for the Panamanian perspective. And luckily, being married to a Panamanian, he's in his 60s, all his friends are in their 60s, they've lived through a lot of them know government officials, but they just have access to information. So I have access to like not Google search that we don't know. Is it real? Is Google real, y'all? I don't know. As an ex-news reporter, I have my doubts. But I was able to get my hands on some very important information. Basically videos from the canal workers that are working like at the port. And what I found, so the Panamanian perspective, the workers are protesting, y'all. They are protesting. They are begging the newly elected U.S. ambassador for Panama, along with President Trump. Like, they're sending videos to him directly. They've written out a whole document begging for intervention. What does that tell you? So the Panamanian port workers are suing the government over, so a concession contract was signed in 1996 by the president at that time, Bayardes. He was president, if I'm not mistaken, from 1994 until 1999. So he signed a concession contract with a communist Chinese company called Panama Ports. So these workers' claims of corruption, saying that presidents, ever since this contract was signed in 1996, every president thereafter profits under the table directly from this Chinese-owned company. And the previous president, Nito Cortizo, actually renewed this concession contract for another 25 years. 25 years, y'all. So the contract lasted for 27 years, and then it was just renewed another 25. It was never audited. It's like hush-hush money. Now, the hush-hush money and the corruption and the paying under table, like, obviously, at this moment, those are allegations, but it's pretty obvious that's obviously what's going on. Why else would Panamanian presidents want to do business with China? Like, they're making money. So, and that is how Panama operates. Like, we know that. So these workers are calling for U.S. intervention, they're calling for audits, and they're calling for accountability. So through my findings, we have the U.S., they're concerned. They're the military and security officials, the Senate, Trump himself, they're all concerned. Trump did bring up that we're getting screwed, that they're overcharging us. So there's more to this, but I think the most important part of this is the security concern. It's also the Panamanian workers' concern. This country is small. Well, there's like a population between like 4.5 million people. Panama's a wealthy country. Like, with its GDP and its small population, poverty shouldn't exist if money was being like responsibly managed. I have been to remote areas in this country where I just cry. Like, you just cry. Like, we recently donated to a woman living in this area, like living very locally here in the Gorgona area. We donated a toilet to her, y'all, because she was like going to the restroom with her little child in a hole. That's unheard of. Like, we won't even get into the indigenous communities in the very remote areas. Like, there's no reason for it. But there's too much corruption, and these what it boils down to is the judicial system. It's not operating. There's not checks and balances. Presidents get into office. They nominate all their buddies and all their family members. Everyone, they have 4 years to steal as much money as they can. Then they get out. Nothing's done. Still terrible education system. Still poverty. There's still infrastructure issues. But there's no reason for it because there's loads of money coming in. China's stance. So we went over U.S. stance, Panama stance. China's stance is they assert that their contracts are legal and they refuse to relinquish control. They were given, legally given rights to control these ports, which I don't know if I mentioned, they control both on the east and the west, like both sides. I mean, think about it. They literally can shut that down at any moment if they want to. Do you understand what backlash that would cause? That would be an economic crisis. It would be a national security crisis. Like, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. So in conclusion, it's like, okay, did Trump say it correctly? Could he have said it better? Should it have been addressed in the inauguration speech? We can always ask all these questions. And, the media does it, we do it. Like, you can sit here and nitpick somebody's body language or what they were wearing or how they said, like, what their verbiage was. At the end of the day, we're just humans living a human experience. We're not perfect. There's always probably a better way something could have been done. But in conclusion, I feel like even though his comments have sparked a lot of backlash, like my investigation, other people's investigation, like you can find this information online too, it's revealed that there are legitimate concerns here, like legitimate. We have security risks. We have economic concerns. So the path moving forward, all we know is what we know now. We don't know how this plays out, but I think we can be hopeful. And if these audits are conducted and the agreements can be renegotiated, this could literally benefit both countries, both the US and Panama. It could benefit the working class, like all of the thousands of people that work at the canal. It could, with these audits and more like checks and balances and accountability, like it could put more money into the communities that need it most instead of into multimillionaires' pockets. Like, bro, you already have a helicopter. That's good. You don't need a jet. Maybe you don't need the newest Gucci bag. Like, let's help those who need a toilet. Sorry, it gets me worked up. If you can't tell, get all emotionally involved. But also, moving forward, it could secure the canal from Chinese influence, which doesn't just benefit Panama and the US. Like, it literally benefits the entire Western Hemisphere. So, I think my cortisol is raised. I'm telling y'all, as I've been like digging into this, I just get like so involved and I get so angry, and I know that corruption abounds in every single country, but obviously I live here. I'm like dually invested. I'm like American, US citizen living in Panama. I love Panama. I love Panamanian people. I pray that God comes in and this is done properly. The corruption can be exposed, we can forge a better path for everyone. Maybe wishful thinking, but again, there's so much more that I could unpack here. This story's ongoing. I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. There's a couple of people I'd like to bring on an interview, so I'm working on that, trying to, persuade them with home-baked cookies or to get them on the show. People that are far more educated to discuss this than me. So hopefully we can get that scheduled. But for now, we've touched on the basics. If this resonates with you, let me know in the comments. I'd love to see how you guys feel. Let me know where you're tuning in from. If this video helped you, if you have any information that could be valuable for me or for those watching. But yeah, until next time, let's hope that this works out for everyone involved. And as always, thank you for tuning in. We'll bring you a feel-good episode soon, Exploring with Beth, or, I always kind of touch on a little bit of everything, but I do always want to touch on major news updates. I think that's really important to this channel and also to my profession. So again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'd love to hear from you. If you need any assistance with relocation, rental, sales, anything, exploring, investment, or relocation to Panama, I'm your girl. All of my contact details are in the description, and we'll see you next time.